Good day, South Africa. I am Palesa Marike, and this is your Tigere24 weekly recap. Let's get straight into it. Transport Minister Barbara Creecy confirmed that 11 out of 25 private train operating companies have been selected to negotiate access to Transnet freight rail network, covering 41 critical freight routes across key corridors. This marks a turning point in South Africa's freight sector, opening the door to private sector participation in hopes of alleviating Transnet's logistical backlog. Transnet has long struggled with underfunding, maintenance delays, and widespread infrastructure decay. Letting private operators in isn't about replacing Transnet. It's about expanding capacity, ideally carrying an additional 20 million tons annually to meet the government's 2029 goal of 250 million tons per year. The selected TOCs, such as logistics firm Roundup, bring fresh operational agility and investment, offering a necessary antidote to systematic inefficiencies that have hampered South Africa's economic flow. And lastly, opportunities to participate come with clear conditions. TOCs must meet safety permits, possess operational readiness, and secure port offloading capacity. Contract durations will range from 1 to 10 years, offering stability while guarding against short-term opportunism. But the journey ahead is steep. Transparency is essential. Identities of the 11 companies and route details remain undisclosed. We need transparency, so civil society, freight users, and the public can monitor progress and help ensure fair implementation. Infrastructure remains critical. Transnet's network is still fragile. While private participation helps, long-term recovery still depends on substantial infrastructure investment. Transnet is reportedly requesting an additional 35 billion rands this year, on top of the existing 149 billion rands in government guarantees. Watch for coordination, not competition. The intent is collaboration, not cannibalization. If implemented well, private operators should buttress, not hinder Transnet's recovery. Otherwise, we risk replicating systematic chaos under a different label. Tigere24's take is that this is a seismic shift. Momentous, sure, but it's a pivot, not a panacea. To turn this into real progress, we'll need rigorous public oversight of these TOC contracts, accountability from both government and Transnet to ensure infrastructure gets repaired, and clear reporting benchmarks for freight performance going forward. The success of this reform rests not in the slots allocated, but on whether or not these TOCs can make freight rail reliable, affordable, and transparent again. That's where South Africa's freight economy truly gets rebooted. Ituba, the operator of the National Lottery, has been trending on socials for the wrong reasons. They came back to publicly debunk the widespread social media rumors suggesting that all major wins since 2020 only came from Absa or FNB users, and that Ituba itself confirmed this claim. The company labeled this information misleading and factually incorrect. To prove their point, Ituba shared real-life examples of big winners from diverse banks, provinces, and retail channels, including a 114 million rand Powerball win in 2020 from a cafe ticket in Roundup, a 50 million rand Powerball Plus win in 2021 at a Caltex station in Groblersdal, a 70 million rand win in 2024 from a Plus Benoni Mexican outlet, a 20 million rand Lotto Plus win in 2023 via the Standard Bank app, a 16 million rand Lotto jackpot in 2024 by a Limpopo shop assistant using Capitec's app. Ituba emphasized that they operate with the highest levels of fairness, transparency, and accountability. The draws are independently audited, and that winner records are securely maintained for auditing and verification. In an era where social media can turn suspicion into fact overnight, Ituba's proactive response is refreshing. Instead of staying silent, they've chosen transparency, laying out clear, verifiable examples to counter false claims. This move not only protects public trust in the lottery, but also sets an example for how organizations should respond to viral misinformation swiftly, clearly, and with data. It reminds us that truth isn't passive, it needs to speak up. BOSA leader Mmusi Maimane held a press briefing last week covering a few topics that affect the country. On lottery tender transparency, BOSA has challenged the decision to award the National Lottery license to Tigere Holdings. They demand transparency, fairness, and accountability in how public funds are managed. They've applied for access to documents, raised the issue in Parliament, and are considering joining court action as amicus curiae. On the National Register of Sexual Offenders, over 32,000 names are on the register, but it remains hidden from from the public. Bossa forced the Justice Minister to commit to making it public, filed for access and ran a petition signed by nearly 20,000 South Africans, pressured municipalities to act on crises like Imfuleni sewage collapse, school infrastructure hazards, and prevented community land from being auctioned off. Lastly, on the national dialogue, Bossa called for an honest conversation about South Africa's future beyond government unity talks, warns of moral and ethical decline in society, from child abuse to rampant violence. Bossa said that leadership must face hard truths, not hide failures under political deals. Our take is this: Bossa is carving space as a watchdog party, but the test is whether or not these campaigns can shift from petitions to policy wins. The South African Tourism Minister, Patricia de Lille, has formally dissolved the entire SA Tourism Board, citing technical chaos and unlawful governance. The board failed to properly justify its actions, specifically suspending CEO Nombulelo Guliwe via protocols requiring the chairperson's authority. This left its decision legally vulnerable. So here's the 411. Chairperson stepped down. The board acted after former chair Gregory Davids resigned, yet still convened meetings and took action without a properly authorized chair. On the legal red flags, de Lille received legal advice that the board exceeded its authority by suspending Guliwe without following the Tourism Act. She warned the board over this misstep before dissolving it. Outer slammed the move as political meddling, arguing that the board should be empowered, not dismantled, for doing its oversight duty. They urged de Lille to reinstate the board or face legal challenge. Similarly, the Institute of Directors warned that the dissolution undermines good governance, especially when continuity mechanisms like interim leadership after a chair's departure should have been in place. Our Tigere24 editorial on the story is that dissolving the SA Tourism Board amid a governance dispute sends a dangerous message. If an oversight body takes action against corporate misconduct, even when it's rightful, it gets disbanded instead of supported. Ministers should not raise scrutiny, they should reinforce it. A board acting in the public interest deserves clarity, not cancellation. Where are the warnings? Where are the guidances? The coaching? Instead, we got political intervention at a time when tourism needs stability more than ever. If defense against mismanagement means removing the board, then oversight becomes optional. That is not leadership, that's liability. Former Minister Malusi Gigaba has sparked headlines by alleging that vote buying has corrupted the ANC since at least 2017. He claims money, not merit, now drives leadership contests, threatening the party's renewal efforts. But here's the real question: why is Gigaba only speaking now and not then? When he was a cabinet minister, he sat in the comfort of the blue lights, enjoying the perks of power. He never once raised these concerns publicly while he was still in the inner circle. It's only now, years later, stripped of high office and facing disciplinary clout, that he chooses to warn about transactional politics. That timing does matter, because speaking out in hindsight is easy. What South Africa needs is leaders that are brave enough to speak up when the stakes are highest, even if it risks careers, titles, or privileges. Gigaba's late revelations, however valid, highlight a broader failure of political accountability. Too often, insiders stay silent while benefiting, only to become truth tellers once pushed to the margins. If the ANC is to truly renew itself, and if South African democracy is to thrive, then the culture of silence in the heat of power must end. Real courage means raising your voice when it counts and not when it's convenient. In a dramatic decision, the Alex Magistrate Court refused bail to businessman Katiso Katie Molefe in the murder case of DJ Somebody. Molefe will remain in custody until his next court date appearance on the 18th of September 2025. Magistrate Boshoff cited WhatsApp chats, cell phone tower data, and suspicious large cash deposits showing communication and coordination with accused hitmen right after the murder. He concluded no exceptional circumstances were presented to justify release. Forensic ballistic linked the same AK-47 to at least 4 high-profile murders, including DJ Somebody, DJ Ventus, engineer Armand Swart, and Don Tindleni, pointing to a deadly network rather than isolated incidents. Now, let's go further. Denial of bail in this case is the least amount of justice in a country plagued by contract killings, but it's not the end, it's the start. Here's what South Africa needs next: no criminal VIP room. special task teams investigating political killings must stay independent and well-resourced. Target the kingpins, not just the hitmen. Protected witness programs and plea deals should aim higher to the networks and funders, not just the triggerman. Link COVID-style ballistic evidence with networks. Use phone records, money flows, and movements to build racketeering frameworks, not just homicide cases. Ramp up public trust. Regular updates about this case without compromising integrity can help rebuild confidence in the justice system. The bail decision is a necessary step, but the real test lies in whether or not South Africa has the will and tools to dismantle the entire syndicate. That's how we honor DJ Somebody, and that's how we fight violence with justice. Gauteng has just become the only province in South Africa to bring an actual aircraft into a schoolyard, courtesy of a donation from Airlink. Premier Palesa Marike shared that learners will receive hands-on training dismantling and reassembling the plane's engine, wings, and seats, supported by 2 full-time technicians. It's education that truly makes economic sense, as Marike puts it, by bridging theory and technical skills in real time. This move by Palesa opens new doors for learners interested in aviation, engineering, and technical careers, and a prime example of how government and industry can co-create powerful educational opportunities. This initiative isn't just symbolic, it's strategic, offering Gauteng learners rare access to high-tech career-focused training. It illustrates how meaningful education innovation can come not from flashy policies, but from smart partnerships that bring the real world into the classroom. Gauteng should ride this momentum. Imagine if every STEM subject had its own real world, from mini wind turbines to digital labs. That's where transformation happens. The ANC has come out strongly against recent public comments made by Malusi Gigaba and Senzo Mchunu. In a statement released on the 18th of August, the ruling party said that the two acted outside of ANC structures, accusing them of deliberately undermining the organization and its unity. The ANC described their remarks as an opportunistic assault on the party's image and credibility, warning that such actions weaken the movement and serve the agenda of counter-revolution. The party stressed that no comrade is above organizational discipline and vowed to take corrective steps against the duo. The statement, signed by ANC national spokesperson Mahlengi Bengu, urged members to return to basic principles and values of the movement while reaffirming the ANC's commitment to unity and renewal. This public dressing down highlights deepening fractures within the ANC as senior leaders break ranks at a time when the party is under pressure ahead of 2026. While the ANC insists on discipline and unity, the fact that leaders like Gigaba and Mchunu are openly defiant signals just how fragile internal cohesion has become. Elon Musk's SpaceX wants to roll out Starlink internet in South Africa, a move that could bring revolution to connectivity, especially in rural and underserved areas. But they've hit a major roadblock. ICASA's strict telecom licensing rules. SpaceX has no issue with South Africa's BEE laws or being a level 4 contributor, but it argues that ICASA's 30% local ownership requirement is unnecessarily restrictive and doesn't align with the country's ICT sector code. Instead, SpaceX is pushing for equity equivalent investment programs, the same model companies like Amazon and Microsoft use. As part of its proposal, SpaceX has pledged a 500 million rand investment, including free internet at 5,000 rural schools. Millions of South Africans, especially in rural areas, still lack reliable internet access. Starlink's satellite tech could change that overnight. ICASA's rigid ownership rule risks scaring off global players. Parliament already recognized that empowerment should include more than just ownership, like skills development, procurement, and community projects. While government debates policy, ordinary South Africans remain trapped in high-cost, low-quality internet contracts. At Tigere24, we say South Africa needs to strike a balance between empowerment and progress. ICASA's intentions are valid, protecting local ownership and transformation, but insisting on equity at all costs may delay access to world-class infrastructure that the country desperately needs. If SpaceX is willing to invest R500 million in schools and rural connectivity, then surely a pragmatic solution exists. EEIPs could empower communities in real tangible ways, not just on paper. The choice before South Africa is clear. Do we stick to rigid rules that protect ownership but risk leaving millions offline? Or do we adapt the framework to unlock innovation, investment, and access for all? Now, at Tigere24, we say that it is time for policy clarity and not policy paralysis. The South African Human Rights Commission has formally found prima facie evidence suggesting that Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Gayton McKenzie violated the Equality Act. This follows the resurfacing of old social media posts from 2011 to 2017, in which he allegedly used racial slurs. The South African Human Rights Commission has now issued an allegation letter and will decide whether or not to take the matter to the Equality Court. Why is this a big deal, you may ask? McKenzie isn't just a citizen, he's a sitting cabinet minister. That means higher standards apply. The South African Human Rights Commission warns freedom of expression is not absolute. McKenzie claims that the posts were taken out of context and accuses critics of targeting him politically. He refuses to apologize, insisting that he is not racist. The SAHRC has now set a deadline. McKenzie must respond formally by Wednesday. If he fails to satisfy the commission, they could open formal proceedings in the Equality Court. Nosevere Mapisa Nqakula's corruption trial has resumed, and South Africa is watching closely. The former Speaker of Parliament and ex-defense minister is facing 12 counts of corruption and 1 of money laundering, accused of pocketing up to 4.5 million rands in bribes from contractor Nambasa Ndlovu between 2016 to 2019. Her case was returned to the Pretoria High Court on the 18th of August. After months of delay, her legal team is pushing for transparency. They want Ndlovu's bank records and clarity on why her case was dropped while she appears as a Section 204 state witness. Mapisa Nqakula's lawyers demanded disclosure of all financial records and prosecutorial decisions to prepare her defense, a move seen as both strategy and a test of fairness. This trial isn't just about one politician. It's a test of South Africa's fight against corruption at the highest levels of power. Do you believe that this case will finally set an example of accountability, or will it fade just like so many before it? At the launch of South Africa's National Dialogue at UNISA in Pretoria, Vice President Paul Mashatile suddenly walked out during heated discussions on corruption and public accountability, only to later return, leaving observers and delegates stunned. Delegates didn't hold back. One captured the move perfectly, saying, "When accountability speaks, the deputy president walks off. That's not leadership." Their outrage led organizers to open the floor for nearly 2 hours, giving citizens unprecedented speaking time. The National Dialogue is South Africa's attempt at a people-led reboot, addressing inequality, corruption, and governance. If public trust falters midstream, then the project's legitimacy falters too. We leave you with this shareable quote. If accountability frightens leadership, how can we expect it to empower citizens? The Zulu royalty advisors proposed that all Zulus worldwide should contribute 10 rands monthly towards the king's upkeep. Their proposal is a response to the KZN government's decision to withhold additional funding for the annual reed dance, which King Misuzulu had moved from Enyokeni Palace to the newly restored Mashobeni Palace. Advisors dismiss criticism of the move as politically motivated. The Zulu royal household receives approximately 86 million rands annually from the provincial government, slightly up from around 77.5 million rand last year. Administratively, this money covers cultural ceremonies like the reed dance, palace upkeep, education, healthcare for select family members, and initiatives under the Zulu Royal House Trust. Advisors express frustration with recurring no-money claims from the province, pointing out that Zulus pay their taxes like everyone else, but receive little autonomy or direct cultural investment in return. This historical concept isn't new. Similar voluntary contributions date back to 1933 after the death of King Solomon and were used to support Zulu royalty funding. Supporters might root for independence, pride in cultural leadership, and preserving Zulu traditions without reliance on fluctuating budgets. Skeptics will raise concerns about transparency, provincial responsibilities, and whether or not this voluntary model sets a precedent that absolves the government of its obligation. We end this week's recap with a social media split screen from Drukes loss to Chimaev. At UFC 319 in Chicago, South Africa's Drukes du Plessis lost his middleweight title to Khamzat Chimaev by unanimous decision, 50-44, 50-45, and 49-46. The backlash traces to du Plessis' 2023 Real African Champion remarks, comments widely read as dismissive of fellow African-born champs Israel Adesanya and Kamaru Usman. Even after clarifications, the clip lived on, and so did the resentment. And here's the split screen. Critics say that the match felt like karma for arrogant, exclusionary rhetoric. Supporters argue that he's still a proud South African who climbed to the top on merit and that sport should unite, not divide. Others went on to post on their handles appreciating just how much Dricus is assisting the black community in his training gym where he and his team train a lot of black people. Neutrals note that Shimaev's game plan simply shut Dricus down. Emotions shouldn't rewrite the scorecards. Our take in the story is that, number one, you can call out bad messaging and still respect the athlete. Dricus' phrasing in 2023 landed badly and fueled needless identity wars. That criticism is fair. Secondly, do not turn sport into a race cudgel. Celebrate skill, demand humility, and keep the hate out. Thirdly, if Dricus wants broader buy-in at home, a clear, unequivocal acknowledgement of why those comments hurt would go further than any post-fight speech. And fourthly, for fans, hold your faves accountable without dehumanizing the other guy. The fight was about wrestling, gas tanks, and control, not bloodlines. Let's look at the bigger picture here. South African sport has room for multiple stories: immigrant, townships, farms, city, all of it. The win or the loss is temporary. The way we talk to and about each other is what truly matters. That's your Tigere24 weekly recap with me, Palesa Marike. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe, stay sharp, and join us again next week.